Today's video is about big, hairy, and audacious goals, how to set them and how to achieve them. I've set myself numerous goals in business and life, and I will share with you some real-life examples that serve as an inspiration for you to go after your big dreams and set big, hairy goals. First, we need to start with a definition of what is a big, hairy, and audacious goal. This is shortened with BHAG. BHAG. The term was coined by James Collins and Jerry Porras in the book Built to Last: Successful Habits of Visionary Companies. Having a BHAG encourages entrepreneurs to have a more strategic and emotionally compelling goal than a vague vision or mission statement. The goal is more concrete, therefore it gives a clear focus, whether you're working as a team or working on your own. In the original definition of BHAG, it is a 10 to 30-year goal, but I use it for something that is achievable within a few years or even just 1 year. So here's the definition from James and Jerry. A true BHAG is a clear and compelling, serves as a unifying focal point of effort, and acts as a clear catalyst for team spirit. It has a clear finish line, so the organization can know when it has achieved the goal. People like to shoot for finish lines. In this video, I want to give you an example of how having a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, has changed my life, and is one of the reasons I am here where I am today. I never thought I was a competitive person. I even argued that I wasn't, but I realized that I do like having big, hairy, audacious goals because they propel me to do something and achieve things that I didn't even think were possible until they're actually done. So let's go back to the year 2007. I didn't have an online business back then. I was a CEO of a company. I was working full-time as a CEO, and at the same time, I was studying at London Business School. I was living in Iceland and studying in London, so I was flying back and forth. One of my classmates was a marathon runner, and he decided to sign a few of us from the class up for a 10K run. I don't recall him asking me for permission or even that I actually can run, but suddenly I was signed up for actually not a 10K, but 11K run in May of 2007, and it was February. The problem was that I had never run in my life. I may have run as a child, but I was 12 years old when I had to give up on running because I was throwing up blood in the sport class. Then it was discovered that I have asthma and I had to stop doing any type of sports. I tried later on in life to participate in some sports like aerobics, Pilates, yoga, and some of those did work for me, but running was definitely something that I stayed away from after this horrific experience as a 12-year-old. So first, I was in shock that I was signed up for a run. I tried to explain to my classmate that I couldn't run, that I had asthma. I was not trained. Yes, I had done some fitness in the past, but that had all been gradually built up very slowly to be able to participate in any type of sport without getting asthma. But something inside of me said, well, if they're all going to do it, what if I can train up and participate? Maybe I can. Maybe. Suddenly, there was some kind of an ambition or even a competition, not with the others, but with myself. The others were all experienced runners, so I had no interest competing with them, but I felt that I should participate, be with them. I was a beginner. Yeah, I had been training. I had been doing some, weightlifting, going to the fitness studio on a regular basis, but running, no. I had not done any running. If I would go for a run, I would do like 2 minutes running and 5 minutes walking on the treadmill. That's pretty much the most I had done at that time. So was I able to do it? Something inside of me told me that I should go for it. So I started to train. I practiced 3 times a week on the treadmill. It was winter time. I was able to run 3 kilometers on the treadmill inside a fitness studio when the run came up in May 2007. And there was another girl from my class who was also not so trained. And she was nice enough to say, hey, let's run together. And I think if she hadn't been there and run with me, I would probably have given up on the way. Doing this run, this 11K run, not being so well trained, was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life, because I actually did finish, but it was physically so difficult. I was really multiple times on the edge of giving up, but running with someone, and I think sometimes he was even holding my hand, made me not give up. I had this friend running with me, and she said, let's do it, let's just walk. And we walked the final meters, and I have no idea what my time, I didn't care. The key was that I had finished something I did not think I could do, and even if it had been much harder than I ever anticipated. So after this experience, I thought to myself, well, okay, I'll never do it again. That was my first thought. But then I started to think, well, what if I had trained a little bit longer? What if I had practiced a little bit longer stretches? I could have possibly done a little bit better. My classmates were more into running than me, so after spending that day with them, something clicked. What if I would train for more time? What if I could give this another try? So I signed up voluntarily this time, and I signed up myself this time for a 10K run in August. So it was May, and the run would be in August. And I'm going to run 10K in 60 minutes. Somewhere I read that's a good measure. I didn't know if I could do it, but I needed a goal for myself. I needed to have a time. I thought, let's aim for that. That was my big, hairy, audacious goal, was to run 10K in 60 minutes. So I had no idea if I could do it, or if it was possible for someone like me who wasn't well trained and had never run in their life. But I set myself the goal, and I wanted to train myself up. So I started to practice. I continued to practice 3 times a week, but now I did it more diligently. I would train myself to go up to 5K on the treadmill, which is like the half of the 10K. And when the weather started to turn nice in spring, both in Reykjavik and London, I would run outside, and wow, that is so much nicer. I always find it hard to start. You know, the first kilometer is really hard, and I want to quit. And honestly, I'm not even sure running is for me. But after the 1K, it starts to get easier. You get in the rhythm of it, and you just continue running. I started to see, based on my 5K runs on the treadmill, that 60 minutes was possible. I didn't really know if I would make it, but it could work. But I never trained 10K. I only trained 5K. But I was optimistic. If I could do my time in 5K, and it felt easy, it would be possible for 10K. But then I started to have some doubts. And this is typical, the lizard brain, the negative thoughts inside your head. And you start to think, who am I to have this goal? I cannot achieve this. I'm not a runner. I'm not a sport person. I've never been able to do sport in a proper way. I started to wish that the weather would turn really bad, that it would rain and be cold. And you know, Iceland, the possibility was really there that the weather wouldn't be nice on that August day. So I went to sleep the night before. I had all my running gear laid out. Everything was ready, but I went to bed with the wish that the weather would be bad, so I would have a good excuse not to go for that run. I woke up early in the morning, and you know what? It was the most beautiful day ever. And so my excuse went away. I had no excuse. I had to go for it. You know, I wouldn't have been able to explain it even to myself not to do it. I actually my mind shifted, and I started to look forward to the run because the weather was so nice. And I felt so prepared, so ready to do this run. I walked into the city and I started to run. And I noticed that I was running a little bit too fast. And I knew that if you run a little bit too fast in the beginning, it will get harder in the end. And it might even get very difficult to finish the run. But I would say I was just so excited to get going. The weather was so good and I was so prepared. And I started to slow down, and I would say the middle was very good. And towards the end, it was hard. It was really hard. But I saw the finish line and the people were cheering me on. I crossed the finish line, looked at my watch, and it was 60 minutes and 29 seconds. I achieved my big, hairy, audacious goal. Someone who was not fit, not trained, has asthma. I made it. I made it. As you can imagine, I was super proud of myself. The only downside is I was completely alone. There was no one there cheering with me. Of course, there were thousands of people there, but no one that I actually personally knew. My parents were abroad. I was actually dog sitting for them. And my sister was somewhere. My brother was at home. But, still, I celebrated myself. I walked back home. And I was just super happy to have achieved this crazy goal. Actually, I was in such a good shape that I went for an 8K walk in the afternoon with the dog that I was dog sitting. It was not much. And I had achieved my big, hairy, audacious goal. So what has this got to do with business, you might ask? Well, the thing is, it's all about your attitude towards goals. They translate very well between life and business. If you can set yourself big, hairy, audacious goals in life and achieve them, you can do the same thing for business. In my business, my first big, hairy, audacious goal was making $1 million. I remember being interviewed by a reporter towards the end of my second year in online business. My revenue for that year was $164,000. And the first year it had been $74,000. I told the reporter my big, hairy, audacious goal. I told him that within 2 years, so I was 2 years in business, and within another 2 more years, I would be making $1 million in revenue. Basically, I said in my 4th year of business, I would be hitting the 7 figures. Next year, I will be making 500,000 and then the million, I told him. And he wrote this all down, and it was published in the biggest newspaper in Switzerland. He even called me the $1 million lady or something like that in the interview. The following year, I made 340,000, not 500,000, but 340,000. But I was still determined to make $1 million in the 4th year of my online business. This meant I had to triple my income from the previous years. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I did it. I did make $1 million in 2017. I would never have been so focused on that goal if I hadn't had the goal in the first place, if I hadn't shared it with a reporter and it had been made public. I also shared it with my email list February of that same year. And then I kept my eye on the ball, and really, I did everything that I needed to achieve the goal. Without the goal, I would have probably ended up making 600,000. That's the difference between having a big, hairy, audacious goal and not having not one, is that you really go for it. You need a big, hairy, audacious goal to achieve great success. It doesn't happen without goals. Big, hairy, audacious goals, they stretch you. They make you come up with new ideas. You get more creative. You are willing to put in more work. You're actually willing to reach out to potential clients and sign them up for something. And otherwise, you wouldn't have reached out in the first place. You don't always achieve your big, hairy, audacious goal. One of my next goals after the $1 million revenue per year goal was a $1 million launch. It took me longer than I anticipated, but I got there in the end, and now I've had multiple launches with 7 figures. But it's okay. Even if you don't achieve your big, hairy, audacious goal, it stretches you and you learn, and then you just try it again. It is motivating. It motivates my team, and I do think it motivates you too. I want you to try it. I am sharing my big, hairy, audacious goal, and I am not afraid to share my goals, because when I don't achieve them, I'm not afraid to share that either. It's a part of how I grow, how I learn, and how I become better as a person and also as a business person. If I didn't set big, hairy, audacious goals, I wouldn't be where I am today. You do not need to know how to achieve your goal. That's the big thing. A lot of people worry too much about the how, and therefore they do not set themselves big enough goals. You absolutely do not need to know how to achieve it. You set the goal, and then things will start to work out for you how to achieve it. It stretches you, it stretches your team, it gets you out of your comfort zone, it makes you achieve a lot more than you would ever be able to achieve without the goal. I would like to know from you, what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? Put that down in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about how to build an online business and scale it to 6 and 7 figures, check out my next video. If you enjoyed this video, love hearing my stories on how to have success in online business, then subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with a friend.